Okay. Well. Okay. All right. Yeah, maybe. Okay. All right. All right. Bye. Okay. Bye. My daughter was just asked to go down the shore for fitting. So that's good. Okay, we're ready, Ruben, whenever you are. I already set the Facebook up, so it was already set. Oh, he's going to put you right on YouTube. You going to put her on YouTube too? Okay, we can come in now. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome. This is, I guess, a meeting with Doc G. I'm trying to get Dave Henderson, my guest next door here, the candidate that was for mayor for Hamilton. Unfortunately, he lost, and that's a big thing for Hamilton to lose something like that because he's such a good guy. But Dave, welcome back.
How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Oh, you're welcome. We're going to take some calls today. So first of all, I'm going to give the number out, 609-807-2492, 609-807-2492. You can hear us on the radio app under Channel 2, or you can go to the website, hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. There's 2 listening links there you can listen to on TuneGenie, and you can also listen to on Player Live 365, and also, of course, the app and other places. So, Dave, tell me what is going on. What is happening to you since the election? Or should we go into that first?
Well, as far as my activities are concerned, I haven't changed much. I'm certainly not campaigning now since I was defeated. I tried to give the Republican primary, I tried to give the Republican voters of Hamilton Township an alternative to the corrupt and mismanaged government that's been going on there for at least 7 years under the current mayor. A bunch of cronies, people that don't know how to manage, not doing a job. You know, you ought to tune into my Facebook page, take a look at my posts, David Henderson, on Facebook, and take a look at the live feeds, particularly ones I put up today. I seem to be getting a lot of action. I did a live feed yesterday of some unkempt area in Veterans Park, which is supposed to be the jewel of the township, and lo and behold, they were out there working on it this morning. Our firefighters, I want to give them kudos. Hamilton Township firefighters, union members were out there this morning taking care of the 9/11 memorial that's in Veterans Park. I was out there yesterday. It was deplorable. It was a disgrace. And I want to give them a lot of credit. They took a look at my video yesterday, my live feed, and they went out there today, and they took it upon themselves. And I want to tell you that the business administrator, Dave Kenny, who really has no business being a business administrator, he heard they were out there, and he drove out and started yelling at them, told them they had to leave, told them they couldn't do any work in the park without getting a prior permit. So, and he accused them of trying to make it political, trying to fix up and make presentable the 9/11 memorial, which also happens to have a memorial for firefighters and volunteers that were at 9/11 after the building came down, trying to recover victims and then do recovery after the fact. So he's really a mess. So take a look at my Facebook page. You'll see what's going on there. Look, I want to make this as open, as broad as can, transparent. Anybody can call in, ask any question about anything. You want to know a nice recipe for my grandmom's spaghetti sauce? I'll give you that. I might hold back a secret ingredient. My grandma wouldn't be happy with that. So let me start out by saying, and call in anytime you want. I'll stop what I'm doing and answer you. But I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple things. I have today's Trentonian here today, which is just happens to be the one that I picked up because there was a very interesting article here. There's an article by Isaac Avaluzia, who wrote an article about a sore winner, Vinny Capodanno. But before I get into that, I want to talk about something over here. You know, I'm reading this article. It's an editorial in the it's reprinted from the Los Angeles Daily News, and it talks about the leftward march of the Democrat Party and the Democrat presidential candidate shows no sign of slowing down, with Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders leading the way. Sanders has launched a new campaign to socialize our economy, and we know how well that's working out in Venezuela. People are dying because they can't eat. There's no food. So he stopped in at the Walmart shareholders meeting, and he tried to motivate an employee activist there, Kat Davis, in their proposal to choose a couple hourly workers to be on the mega corporation's board, to serve on the board. I don't know. What are their qualifications, putting the hourly workers on the board? I mean, I'm all for input of the workers. I'm all for listening to the workers' issues, but I don't know how that would serve the corporation to put them on the board. Also makes note here that Elizabeth Warren she's not quite as far left as Bernie. She's not quite as socialistic as Bernie. She also claims she's running, and she only wants 40% of the board and the members to be employees, not 70%, which is what Bernie wants. Oh my. So I guess we're waiting for some calls still, and I want to talk about this article that Isaac wrote today. Isaac fashions himself as and has said often that he's a Bob Woodward wannabe. I think he's going to have to go a little bit farther to be a Bob Woodward then. But he writes his articles. It's been a little unkind to me a couple of times. I think that it adversely impacted my campaign somewhat, but certainly wasn't the deciding factor. I think the deciding factor may have been the short period of time. After all, I really only campaigned for about 5-6 weeks. It seems that the people I got the message to understood the message and voted for me. But voters have a lot of history. It's hard to break their voting habits. They need to be educated as to the issues. Look, I think that voters, they have lives to run, and I think that what they do is they elect officials and they want to trust them. And certainly I believe that the current administration in Hamilton Township has lost all trust completely. The reason I ran is because they lost my trust. I mean, after all, I'm a Republican. They're Republicans. I worked with them in getting them elected. And you know, little Dennis Pone came up to me about, well, it must be 6 months ago now. He approached me in kind of a arrogant fashion before one of the council meetings, and he said to me, well, you know, Dave, you never said anything when in past years with the council. And I looked him square in the eye and I said, well, Dennis, I had no reason to ask these questions before, but you have proved that you're not trustworthy. So now we're watching. And I think that watching is helping the people of Hamilton Township. So let's talk about the article a little bit. Vinny rambles on in a whole different amount, a whole various ways with not very much coherence. It's kind of funny because he's quoted in here saying that I'm irrelevant, but here we are. We're a week after the primary that I lost that he so arrogantly and vociferously said was a landslide, but I'm still on his mind. So I guess I'm not irrelevant. Maybe I am relevant. By the way, I garnered 35% of the vote, which when we're dealing with a twice elected 7-year incumbent mayor in a Republican primary, I think that's telling. So Vinny ranted and raved. He talked about he disrespected the mayor of Hamilton, the mayor of the city of Trenton. He disrespected the mayor of Robbinsville. He disrespected the leading law enforcement agent in Mercer County in Angelo Onifrey, the prosecutor. And he was so arrogant, as paper says here, Capodanno instructed Onifree to, quote, get off his ass and do something about gun toters in Trenton. He specifically said that he thought that they should drop the investigation into the release of my expunged records. And for the record, expunged records, arrest records you're able to get them expunged if the charges are dismissed or if you're found not guilty. And the reason that happens is because an expungement, when a charge is dismissed, that means the arrest should have never happened, that the underlying charges were tainted. So the fact of the matter is there was no basis for the charges. It was an unfortunate incident that we went through during the course of a divorce, and my ex-wife, who we still get along well, was given some bad advice by an attorney and said, this is what you should do in order to get the house, and blah, blah, blah. So they were expunged. So Vinny decides that he wants to tell the prosecutor that we should not investigate that crime, that we should investigate the guns in Trenton, which is pretty funny because he's so narrow-minded that he thinks that there's only one investigation going on at a time. There's probably 250 people in the prosecutor's office, and there's a homicide task force in the city of Trenton that's standing anyway with state police on it. So, crimes could be of various nature, and they can all be investigated at once. Unlike Vinny, who has a one-track mind, other people could do many other things. And as a matter of fact, the prosecutor said, his quote, it's a very serious issue, and particularly when it comes from the police department, which indicates to me, which was my suspicion, that the mayor has weaponized the police department and has released records for her political motives and her political gains. Also want to go back to some other political stuff that's going on. Little Dennis Pone, who's the Hamilton Township Republican Committee chairman, and he doesn't represent all Republicans in Hamilton Township, which is what he's supposed to do. He represents the mayor and her inner circle. He was financially tied to the Political Action Committee set up by the Hamilton Township Republican Committee, who paid for photos that they had posted, which they had illegally posted, and they had taken somebody's pictures and posted them, some copyrighted pictures that somebody else had done. So just to close out on this Vinny Capodanno debacle, I think that the majority of Republicans in Hamilton Township deny Vinny's representation as a Republican. He's been a Democrat. He was a Democrat up until probably 4 days before he interviewed to become the Republican council chairman. And, he accuses other people of working on behalf of the Democrats, but I think that it's more likely he's working on behalf of the Democrats. So he doesn't represent Republicans, and he doesn't, there is no animosity and civil war within the county Republican Party. A portion of the Hamilton Township Republican Party who feels disenfranchised and has been excluded from the Pone, Yady, Kenny Republican sector, the machine that tries to ram everything down everybody's throat and doesn't want to have the Democrat process. That disenfranchised group, who I'm a member of, we're in full harmony with the rest of the county and with the county chair. We support the county chair, Lisa Richford. Jumping away a minute, I'm looking on the back page of this paper. So Big Poppy got shot. He was messing around with a drug lord's wife, and the drug lord sent somebody up to shoot him in the back. Well, I understand that he's been moved to Boston. He's been flown from the Dominican Republic. The Boston Red Sox, as they should have, got involved to some degree, evacuated him from the Dominican, and he's in a hospital in Boston, and we wish him well. He certainly was a good ball player, even though he was a Red Sox. I mean, I'm a Yankee fan, but he's a good ball player, and we don't wish anybody ill. We hope he gets better. not to play again, but we hope he gets better. So, I didn't shave before I came on the air. I was considering bringing a razor and some shaving cream. I could shave live on the air. It might entertain some people. Maybe I'll do it next. There's probably some people that would hope that I would slip and cut my... Yeah, I'm not going to say that. So, I guess I'll just keep rambling on if we're not going to get any calls.
A lot of supporters out there for you. They're all saying stuff, but I don't know why they're not calling.
Well, I think we need to do a better job in letting people know where we are and when we are. And 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon could be a hard time because people are driving, people are at work.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about another time slot, maybe early evening when maybe drive time, like Don Imus used to do and Howard Stern. And
Yeah.
we could bring in a couple characters. We could be like the Howard Stern show.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say one thing. I know a lot of Democrats in the township that were going to vote for you, but they couldn't. That was an issue because of the primary. And I feel real bad for that. But outside some people that said that the lights didn't work, I really thought that you would at least get a lot more voting.
Well, look, again, it's tough.
I think you did good.
It's tough. I'm a competitive guy. I don't like to lose, but I think we had a good showing. 6 weeks. I think if we had a little bit longer, and it was a Republican primary. You have to understand that. We addressed a small pool of voters, and it was a message that we had to get out. And you have to also remember that it's a Republican primary, and the mayor has a lot of people that are beholden to her. A lot of people she's given jobs to. She has a lot of developers who she's given advantage to. A lot of things we're going to be talking about in the next couple of months. I think that Mr. Capodanno and the mayor were hoping that I was going to disappear because I got beat. But
that's not going to happen.
It's
not going to happen.
I'm not afraid of getting beat. I've been beaten in a lot of things in a lot of ways. I think Henry Ford failed in 340 businesses before it became Ford Motor Company. So I'm not.
I have a question for you if you're ready. One of your people want to know about Kenny tipping the firefighters today.
Yeah. So what happened today is the firefighters apparently viewed my live feed yesterday, and they went out there early this morning about 9:30. One of the firefighters is apparently a landscape guy on the side. He brought his truck, his trailer, his lawnmowers. He got out and mowed around the monument area with the benches that are there for reflection on the tragedy. And one of the firefighters took his pickup truck and they chipped in and bought a pickup truck full of mulch, and they all got out there. There was probably nearly 20 guys there, and a couple of firefighter women, and they were one of them even brought their dog, and they were out there weeding and mulching. They took all the grass that was in between the bricks on the pathway, and they did a great job. And apparently, the gentleman that manages the maintenance of the park came over, and he initially, in a rather loud voice, told them they had to get out of there. He was going to call the cops. They weren't allowed to be there. What are they doing? They can't work in his park. And the firefighters apparently respectfully declined, and then short time later, it motivated Mr. Kenny to get out from behind his desk. It'd really be nice if Mr. Kenny drove around the township as business administrator to see what's going on. And I don't know why Coach Marty wasn't there. He's the chief of staff. None of these people seem to get out and see what's going on in the township. But Kenny got there, and he told them they had to leave. They weren't allowed to work in the township. They couldn't do work in the park. And the firefighters respectfully continued to work and chose not to I think we're getting a call. Chose not to leave. They did a great job. Kenny retreated to his office to no avail. So kudos again to the firefighters.
We do have a phone call for Dave Henderson. Please come through.
Hi, my name's Steve. I have a question for Dave about the 9/11 memorial that you were just talking about with the firefighters. I heard that Dave Kenny was there.
Yeah, we just talked about that. Mr. Kenny got out from behind his desk. He got out from behind his desk. This was important enough for him to come out and yell at the firefighters, tell them they had to leave the park. Tried to tell the firefighters that they couldn't work in the park without prior permission. They respectfully told him that they weren't going to leave the memorial to the 9/11 heroes and to the firefighters and emergency responders who responded to New York City that day. I wish that this administration, the business administrator, would take that initiative to deal with a number of other problems in the town that the town has. We've been fighting bad roads for a long time. They don't seem to have any willingness to do any road maintenance. Last year, we did an OPRA request. For all those that don't know what OPRA is, OPRA stands for Open Public Records Act. It was a law that was instituted many, many years ago, specifically to combat municipalities and government agencies that were reluctant in coming forth with public information. There's been quite a bit said, false narrative by the current administration saying that the people that are asking for records are bogging down the system. They, on one hand, they say they're transparent, but they're not forthcoming with anything. And on the other hand, if you do an OPRA request, they want to deny it. Right off the top of my head, I would say that so when you do an OPRA request, if they deny it, if they don't answer it, they just ignore it. There's a method, there's a lawsuit, you can sue in Superior Court. To the best of my knowledge, there are about 14 OPRA cases which citizens of Hamilton Township have brought suit where they have not gotten the information they requested.
Has the township ever won any of those suits?
To the best of my knowledge, they have not. As a matter of fact, last week they lost 2 more, and there are 3 that are going to be heard tomorrow, which is Wednesday, and 1 more next week. And they've probably and when they lose an OPRA lawsuit, they're required to turn over the information, and they're also required to pay only legal fees of the attorney that represented the aggrieved individual and that brought the suit. They have paid, to the best of my knowledge, in excess of $45,000 in about 11 OPRA lawsuit cases. The township has paid $45,000 just because they didn't want to give you the information that was public information.
Yeah, I've asked for the audio of whoever called in to the when the firefighters were doing the car wash, and they're playing games with me actually right now, because personally I think it's, in my opinion, is Kelly Yeady that called in, and they don't want to release it.
Well, it's interesting. A little earlier in the show, I was talking about the administration weaponizing the police department, and if they're not going to release the records, I had a OPRA lawsuit myself. I had OPRA'd some police officer body camera video that depicted the mayor on that video, and they had sent me back, OPRA people, the city clerk had sent me back an email telling me that I had to pay $1,400, that it would take 15 hours for a internal affairs detective to go through the video to redact what needed to be redacted.
It seems like now their strategy is to try to charge everybody for everything, although Mayor Yeady's uncle got thousands of pages for free and immediately.
I wasn't aware of that, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, we asked for stuff, and now the mantra is, well, it's gonna take this much time, and you have to pay, and they give themselves automatic extensions. That way they can not hand it to you. I mean, Oprah's supposed to be about transparency, and they're trying to use different strategies to not have to hand things over when they're supposed to, and try to charge you for things that are very simple. And I mean, they're asking me for an extension, and a special service charge, even though they failed to respond to me until I actually asked about it. And they said, well, our thing didn't flag it because it didn't have Oprah in the beginning on the subject line. It doesn't have to. They actually just lost with Terry on that. It just seems that the entire township is just incompetent, and it seems like that's what the township wants, is just an incompetent administration that can't do their jobs.
Well, I think that the increased Oprahs are a symptom of a bigger problem, and the bigger problem is lack of transparency. Why would you not want to give out public information? Because the availability of that information would make you look bad and would show more deficiencies. I'll give you an example. Last year, I was quite taken back by the lack of maintenance on the roads. There's no reason for a town as large as Hamilton Township with 385 employees that they wouldn't have a full-time crew all year round, tarring the cracks and filling potholes. Would certainly be a benefit to the roads before they got to be falling apart. And so towns usually have what's called a road maintenance plan, and that outlines how often they assess the roads, how they go about ranking the roads and which ones are going to get fixed, and how they go about tarring the cracks and filling the potholes. And lo and behold, I got pushback. It was denied. They asked for an extension. After about 30 days and the threat of a lawsuit, turns out they didn't have a road maintenance plan. So, they put me off and put me off and put me off because they didn't want their incompetence to show through that they didn't even have a road maintenance plan. And we have a guy that's a director of the Department of Public Works. He makes about $130,000 a year. He's got a huge crew. He's got people working for him. Why don't we have a road maintenance plan? Look,
well, I think I recorded him taking pictures while he was driving on the road over there.
Well,
I saw that.
They're arrogant and they feel they're above the law. On that perspective, I think I have quite a few years' experience in management. From a management perspective, the structure of the departments in the township is such that it adversely impacts the functionality. They can't even work right the way it's structured, and it's in need of modification. Not the least of which to say they don't even have an org chart. So you open an org chart, you ask them who reports to who, and they can't tell you. And part of that is by design because Oprah again outlines that they produce records that exist. They're not required to make a record. They're just required to produce what exists.
Right.
So if they don't have the record, if they don't keep a record, I mean, I think that one, and not, I'm going to tread on a touchy subject here, the animal shelter. There was a lot of records they didn't have for the animal shelter, and I think they didn't have them for a reason, because they didn't want to get caught with them. 1,900 animals were euthanized in that shelter in a 4.5-year period under Kelly Yeady's watch, and only 320 could be substantiated. That's why there are only 320 charges against the manager of the shelter and the director. Now, frankly,
right, and trying to get the animals out of there, or even to take a picture of them, it's they have only one different rescue that's in there. Meanwhile, in the township, there's many rescue organizations that are represented by volunteers, and we've actually tried. My wife, Colleen, actually tried taking pictures over there, and she was denied, fearing that it was going to be used against them, where she actually said, I won't go. That way we can get rid of that controversy if there was one, because I'm more for the animals, to try to get over there, take pictures, and get them out of there. And, that's even fought with Rife, because they're doing things that they're not supposed to be doing, even now.
Well, I think that's something that's always been curious. I haven't been highly involved in the animal shelter. Others have been involved in the animal shelter. Other competent more knowledgeable people with regard to management of strays and shelter dogs and rescues. You know, I'm a dog lover, but I'm not really involved with rescues that much. I'm a little bit involved with just a rescue on my breed. But one of the things I always found curious from day one was that there are so many rescues in the area that have so many resources and so many volunteers, and yet they confine it to only one rescue organization. Only one rescue organization is allowed to take animals out of there. Only one rescue organization is allowed to work there, and I just think that's a disservice to the animals. You know,
Absolutely.
Not to rewind history, but part of my campaign platform was if I was mayor, I was going to put in citizens advisory panels, and without a doubt, one of them should be with the animal shelter. There are a lot of people out there that are very, very well versed in handling of animals, adopting out animals, and we need to use all the resources we can, because you know what? If you don't fill the crack in the road and the road falls apart, it's only money to fix the road. But if a poor, innocent animal isn't handled correctly, they're going to die, and that's a life.
Right.
So, you know,
Right.
thanks for calling in, Steve. I want to move on to something else, which you triggered in your question. Triggered something else, and maybe we can get another caller on it. But I want to talk about shared services agreements. So Hamilton Township has a myriad of shared services agreements, and everybody thinks that sounds great, and everybody thinks that's, you know, kind of a sexy thing. Let's save money. Let's share our services with other people. But I'm not sure how Hamilton Township does it, because not one of our shared services agreements, to the best of my knowledge, can I see where anything's shared. We share our health officer, and we don't get anything back. Our health officer has, we have shared services agreements with, and I'm going to use, there are 9 where we offer health services. Some of them are including some of our clinics, which are our sexually transmitted disease clinic. We do some vaccinations. I think we do lead paint. Those people come to the health building, and that's great. Some of the smaller municipalities surrounding us don't have the resources to have their own clinic, and those people travel to us, and we have a rate sheet, and we, Hamilton Township's, compensated on a rate sheet basis. There's 4 municipalities where we have, quote, shared services, where we share our health officer. Our health officer who can't get his duties done in the township. There are many restaurants. You go out to eat in Hamilton Township, there's many restaurants that haven't been inspected in years. And they had a flurry of work at the end of last year and the beginning of the year, and they caught up on quite a few of them. Most of them were 2 years old. State law requires that they get inspected every year. So they were only 2 years behind on some. So our health officer, who also happened to be in charge of the animal shelter, who has 320 counts of animal cruelty and a couple counts of official misconduct. So he wasn't able to do what he was supposed to do at the animal shelter, but we had a shared services agreement where he went out and provided health officer services to Upper Freehold Township, East Windsor, West Windsor, and you know, I might have it.
Now, what happens if he gets has to step down from that position and is just regular health officer?
Well, it's not going to impact Hamilton Township, because we don't get anything back for his services. He has private agreements outside Hamilton Township where he gets paid in excess of $45,000 from those townships. Upper Freehold Township has a contract with him, pays him $12,000 a year. And it's sent to him as a 1099. The township's not in it. I'm not sure whose insurance is covering. I mean, is the township's insurance covering him when he's out driving in the township car going to Upper Freehold Township, and Upper Freehold Township sending him a $1,000 check a month? We have the invoices, we have the agreement, we have canceled checks, and I don't know. I kind of tried to motivate our council to do something, but last year's council president, Anthony Carabelli, and this year's council president. And after it was brought to light, they approved it again for this year. So now we got a guy that's charged for animal cruelty, charged for official misconduct, on shared services agreement, taking the township vehicle, which I don't think we get compensated for his vehicle, driving in Upper Freehold Township. And look, he's had other problems in the township before. He's been disciplined twice for theft of time. Of course, nobody's going to release those personnel records. Dave Kenny defends him. We're losing out. The township's losing out. Shared services is supposed to be shared. Let's get something back for it. We should be working in the best interest of Hamilton Township, not East Windsor, not Robbinsville, not Upper Freehold Township. So maybe the taxpayers can get to the council meeting, write a letter to your councilman, write a letter to the mayor, call the mayor, get that taken care of. Another thing I have in my notes here, we talked about Oprah's. 2.5 years ago, I wanted to find out the cost of the mayor's security team. The mayor regularly has a well-seasoned senior detective accompany her wherever she goes. He's accompanied her, or they rotate. They have accompanied her to Yardville Heights School, elementary school. I don't know how much danger's there when she went in to read books for a photo opportunity.
San Francisco too, right?
Well, I think it was scheduled to go to San Francisco. I don't think anybody went to San Francisco, but they have gone to Miami and Boston, and they have stayed at $245 a night hotels. I don't know how many people in Hamilton Township or in Mercer County stay at $245 a night hotels. But I guess it's good if you want to take the money from the township, from the taxpayers. I don't know.
Well, if nobody's going to hold them accountable, they'll just do whatever they want.
Exactly.
What do you think, Gene?
I think exactly what you're saying. What he said is too. As long as you don't say anything or care about anything, they're going to keep taking whatever they want to take. We got to stand up. I mean, the whole idea about people being responsible is important for each job you take. Not go outside the job. I agree with you. There's certain things you do outside as a different entity or whatever, but that's still within the law. Going outside the law like this is just wrong. And if people don't even know about it, and if you say something about it, like, oh, don't say nothing about it, it's totally wrong. I mean, look what you're doing.
They smear you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's chaos is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you bring out the facts that they're doing different things, and you provide their own paperwork to prove that they're doing these different things, and just like Dave, oh, you're misogynist. Well, he brings out the facts, and instead of going after what he's saying,
they don't care about the facts.
They're just ignoring it and attacking him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the biggest problems, not only with this township, but because we're talking about this township, but other areas as well. It's just crazy when you look at the idea of people going outside the realm of what they're supposed to do and then where they go.
Well, Gene,
and your shared services is not coming back 100% true. Go ahead.
Well, it's evident. Every time you look under a rock, another snake jumps out. Everywhere you go.
Well, why are we passionate about this and nobody else is?
I don't know.
How do we get people
look, it's tough.
They have other things that's going on.
It's tough because, look, people have lives. The 30-something couple that has 3 kids and they both work and they come home from work and one child's going to lacrosse, the other child's going to baseball, the other child's going to dance. They have lives. And you know what? The people, the powers that be in the township are very, very unhappy with me since I've been live streaming the council meetings. They don't want anybody to see what goes on at council meetings.
Good for you.
From 2012 to the end of 2017, nobody broadcast the meetings. Nobody knew what was going on. You had 5 Republican council. And again, I'm a Republican. I stand up for Republican values, but I don't stand up for corruption and mismanagement and hoodwinking people. They had 5 Republicans. They didn't even have a discussion. Nobody would go to the meetings. I went to a couple meetings. There was 3. I was one of 3 people there because They don't want to know what's going on. You know, look, you go to almost any other municipality, you go to any school board, everything's broadcast. Why shouldn't and by the way, the Democrat majority council last May, more than a year ago, authorized payment for equipment to broadcast the council meetings. What has happened? I'm going to fault the municipality, the administration for not doing anything, and I'm going to throw stones at the council. Council President Martin, what's he doing? He wants to be mayor? He can't figure out how to get them to broadcast these things in 14 months?
We offered him that.
Council, well, you offered him that.
Yes, I did. And no cost to the taxpayers.
The schools offered that. Why can't, if they don't want you guys to do it, why can't the schools go in and do it? Why can't
we would love
they got right. Why, and you know what? Why can't you go in? Why can't Ruben go in and you go in cooperation with the high schools?
I would love to do
get some internship for those kids. But anyway, it's not getting done. And you know what? It's not getting done. And let me say it again. It's not getting done. And this young couple that I'm talking about, John Q. Public, that's got 3 kids, that's running here and there and going to their job, it would be nice. They would like to sit down at 10 o'clock at night and review, or on a Saturday night or on a Wednesday night. And maybe Tuesday doesn't work for them. And if it's broadcast and archived, they can watch it anytime. And then more people will get involved in government. You know, a lot of my naysayers, a lot of the Vinnie Capadanos of the world, poo-poo everything I've done. But guess what? Things have gotten done in this township. We have packed council meetings. I have more than 2,000 people watch my live feed on a Tuesday night of the council meeting. And all I can say, you can love me, you can hate me, but it's good government, it's good politics, it's good for the people of Hamilton Township. I want to go on to another problem. Got another problem. I took some notes, got prepared. So on Saturday, well, let me go back. On Thursday, May the 16th, I did a live feed behind the abandoned bank building at Clockner Road and Whitehorse Mercerville Road. And more than someone, had been using it as a dumping area. There was broken concrete, there was dirt, there was a sofa there, large amount of debris. And I did a live feed. I said, look, here's, and I was focusing on the problem of economic development, lack of economic development. We have that building's been vacant for a couple of years now. I was focusing on 750 vacant structures, residential structures, commercial structures in Hamilton Township. Nobody's doing anything about it. Burned out houses, been burned out, sitting in neighborhoods for 10 years, detracting from the neighbor's property, impacting the quality of life adversely. So I took a picture of this pile of crap, and that was on a Thursday. And lo and behold, on Saturday, the powers to be in the township sent out an overtime crew with a loader, a roll-off container on a flatbed truck, on a rail truck, 2 pickup trucks, 5 guys, a supervisor, and they cleaned it up. It confused me a little bit because I wanted to know who was paying for it. So I went to the council meeting on Tuesday, May the 21st, and I asked business administrator, Mr. Kenny, is there an access agreement for the township workers to enter that property and remove the material? Was there an abatement notice? Did the township send an abatement notice to the property owner saying you need to abate your problem, you need to abate the dumping problem, and you need to clean it up? And if you don't, we're going to clean it up and we're going to charge you for it. See, under Township Ordinance 362-10, it's property maintenance. And under that ordinance, it calls for the township to notice the property owner, give them a 10-day notice, say you got to clean it up. And if they don't clean it up, then you got to give them another notice saying, now you had the 10 days and you didn't clean it up. Now we're going to go in and clean it up. And at that point, we can then lien the property and attempt to recover the monies. And at some point, they probably could recover the monies if the property's sold.
And who's in charge of that?
Well, I would think that the agreements are the responsibility of the township attorney, Mike Ballant, but I guess he's over his head. And certainly, ultimately, the last man standing is the business administrator. Everybody reports to the business administrator. So I'm sure that somebody monitoring, some township employee under the direction of the mayor, monitoring my Facebook page, went out and saw that and called Pothole Pete, otherwise known as Dave Crothers, the DPW director, and he sent a crew out of his own volition, didn't notify the township attorney to send out the proper notices. So we paid 6 guys overtime. We incurred costs for fuel, maintenance, trucks, disposal of the materials. Who knows where they sent it? And we're not going to get that back. You and I are going to pay for that. Gene, you and I are going to pay for that. Everybody else who lives in Hamilton is going to pay for that. They did the same thing the other day over on Sweetbriar. Grass was 2 feet high. I put a picture out that the grass was 2 feet high. There was a Yeti for Mayor sign there. 2 days later, they're out there with a 5-man crew, 2 trucks, 2 lawnmowers, 2 trailer, whatever. Cut all the grass down. They couldn't cut the grass at Veterans Park. They couldn't cut the grass at Veterans Park that the firefighters took care of today. But they went out there and did that on Saturday on overtime. And I'm sure that they didn't send out an abatement notice. And we're going to ask that question at the next council meeting. So get involved, folks. Get involved.
Well, keep the calls coming. Steve, thanks for calling. We appreciate your time there. 609-807-2492. If you still want to talk to Dave, there's still time. We have about 15 minutes left of the show. I know I got to get out of here at 2 o'clock, but he can, it's up to him if he wants to stay. But if there's any other phone calls, please call 609-807-2492. I definitely agree with you about everything you said, and so what Steve said is too. If we all don't do anything, nothing gets done. And nobody, like you said, nobody really cares because nobody knows, but it's our job. It's our job, my job as media, alternative media, for not only Hamilton, but everybody, to let them know what's going on. And me and Dave are going to work closely on this. We're going to give you updates during the day. We're going to do a lot of stuff. We're going to do a lot of stuff together. I'll say it this way. Dave not becoming mayor just spiked us up a little bit more because we want to show what's out there and what the truth is and who's out there that you can trust. Like I'm with the Crime Watch, but I'm also working within the capacity of the township.
Well, you took over for your mother, right? Your mom was Crime Watch.
No, me and my wife.
30 years ago when I started. So you've been on Crime Watch that long?
Probably.
I moved in the neighborhood 30 years ago.
1991 we started, and we've been there. My father-in-law, William Sharp, they called him Doc, was working with.
Is he the guy they named the street after? Sharp's Lane?
Well, his mother.
Yeah.
His mother. But the funny thing is, Doc was a great guy, and he worked under a guy named Ray Bierce, who was with the Public Works, and they ran that place like you said, like a ship, like they should have. All these other people come in there, they don't know what the hell they're doing or why they're there. It's our job.
No SOPs, no nothing, no
plan.
Right,
and Steve, it's our job to tell people that they don't. And it's our job, me and Dave and you, and wherever else wants to join us, to let people know that there's ways of finding out. You don't have to just tune into the paper. You don't have to tune into Dave's
if they don't believe what we're saying, they could open request it themselves.
But Steve, the credibility of a person relies on their previous experience. That's what I was told years ago as a broadcaster. So, in other words, the longer that I broadcast, the higher my credibility becomes because of who I am. You know what I'm saying? Same with Dave.
Yep.
They can naysay and do whatever they want. But the point is, we're giving them facts. And when you give people facts, they can't redact that. They can't change that. That's a fact. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely. You're giving their own paperwork. I mean, just like the 1,900 animals that were killed. We're not making that number up. That's their number.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Let
Exactly.
me jump in here. I have a text message.
Go ahead.
Text message of a question. Nick sent me a text message. He wants to talk a little bit about code compliance and the example it sets when the township can't even keep their own house in order. So, it's interesting that he says that. I mean, we have code compliance enforcement. We have code compliance officials. We have inspectors. We have ordinance compliance inspectors. And I don't see what they do. I really don't. You can go down any street in the town and find ordinance violations. Lawn signs, for example, the signs you see up and down Route 33. I get embarrassed. Someday, if you got nothing to do, go into Trenton, get on Route 33, drive down to Asbury Park. Goes all the way to Asbury Park for those that don't know it. The worst stretch of road is Route 33 in Hamilton Township. It's an eyesore. There are illegal signs everywhere. There are those little 18 by 24, 18 by 30 lawn signs on the little metal things that are used for politics. Mm-hmm. I put them out when I campaign, but I went out and picked them all up. You could put them out for a campaign. But go up and down there. And, I don't want to single anybody out, but I'm going to single some people out. You can see Pizza Hut. You can see Subway. First of all, they're against the ordinance, and the ordinance is there for a reason. It's a quality of life ordinance. It's an eyesore. And it's also a traffic distractor. Right. People look at those signs, they ride down the street, they look at those signs, and they're distracted from traffic. And it's just human nature to look at the signs. But nobody does anything about it. I've called the inspector, and I'm going to give you a little information here. You see that going on, you can call Mike Cosma.
Told me it was trash.
You could call Mike Cosma. He's the zoning enforcement official. You can call him at 609-672-8241. I guess you got to put the pressure on and something will happen. Those signs aren't in accordance with the ordinances. You can also call them in the engineering department at 609-890-3636. That's Rich Williams is the township engineer. You can call him. And Mike Cosman reports to him. You can call Mike Cosman. You can get your zoning issues resolved. How about you're not supposed to park cars on the grass? You know what? It's an ordinance. If you don't like the ordinance, go in and petition to have the ordinance vacated, but it's a law. That's my opinion of it. If there's any of these ordinances you don't like, get rid of them. You could change any of the ordinances you want. You could petition the council to change them. You can park cars on the street. You can park cars on the grass. You can have a construction equipment in your backyard. Just change the ordinance. But my position is if the ordinance is there, you got to enforce it. And you can't enforce it with discretion. I had, top of my head almost exploded about 6 months ago when Dave Kenny said that they enforce the ordinances with their discretion. It's not what it is. It's the law or it's not the law. You can't say, and their discretion means if you're their buddies, they're not going to enforce the law. But if they have an axe to grind and it's well documented and being investigated by the prosecutor's office, the retributive methods that I have people to put a campaign, Dave Henderson for mayor sign on their lawn, and the next day they were visited by inspectors. That's not right.
Well, here's another question for you too. So they're still saying that they're violating everybody's First Amendment rights too with their web pages. I mean, you still can't post anything up there. If you do, nobody gets to see it because they have filtered words where if you say the is, nobody gets to see what you're saying. So they're still violating everybody's rights.
Well, you know what I would say? There's a lawsuit going on. I would say the plaintiffs in that lawsuit ought to kick it in gear and get it done and get it to stop. They ought to get them to take the sites down. If they can't comply with people's civil rights, they should take the signs down. They don't want to comply with First Amendment rights. They want to modify and control the narrative because they want it to be their narrative. They don't want it to be the truth They want their narrative.
Yeah, it's just their propaganda. I mean, the police department had the same exact setup. I put an IA on that. They undid it. Kudos to them. They fixed it. Now you can post on there, and it's not anarchy. People post what they want. That's the way it's supposed to work.
Well, look, if they want to have the site up, they ought to do it right.
Correct.
If they don't want to do it correct, don't do it.
I mean, it's just their propaganda. Of every time that she goes out and takes pictures wherever she's at, then it gets to be posted.
Steve, why don't we form a community-based, I don't want to say anti-government because I'm not really anti-government, but I definitely agree with Dave. I think we can get more traction and hold these politicians accountable and make them responsible for all the different things that we turn up. All the different things that we turn up, not only in the Crime Watch, but in the town of Hamilton. Like you said, eyesores, signs in the way, everything that causes a problem to somebody else because of either a business or another person, they're not responsible. They're not being responsible. And that's where we got to hold them accountable for it. So we should develop that. We should work on that. You guys can, I told you, Dave, you can use this radio station, Dave, and Steve as a pulpit to get your information out there and also use it as you need it. We're here as a community-based organization, but we're also here as a community-based business. So if we can all do something with that and we all grow, I see a win-win for everybody. And keeping them accountable. That's the biggest thing. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, Gene, something I'd like to do. I mean, I like this. I like discussing with you. I like getting calls in. Unfortunately, we only got one call today. We got a text message. I'd like to see if we can explore some late afternoon or early evening hours.
I have a Thursday night that just opened up at 6:30.
Let's do Thursday night at 6:30, and let's promote this so we can get people to call in.
Okay. He just canceled. So
I'm in. I'll do it again. Let's see if we can get some traction.
Okay.
How's that, Steve? You can't even get the mayor to respond to anything. I mean,
Steve,
it's just ridiculous.
The idea is we don't have to.
Gene, Steve, put that out of your mind. It's not going to happen. You're wasting your energy. We will just move on without her. There are other alternatives. All right. Unfortunately, my message didn't resonate with enough people. I didn't have enough time. Didn't resonate with enough people. There are other alternatives. We will move. Listen, the power of the community is greater than the power of the government. Right. The government's there to serve. I said this a few times in a few things I said during my campaign. A famous man once said, government of the people, for the people, and by the people. This is not their government. The people we elect, it's our government. So what we need to do right now, it's fruitless to do anything with the administration. We just have to keep shaming them. The way I shamed them today, the way I shamed them yesterday, they don't get it because they don't care about being shamed, but I'm going to continue to do it. The pressure needs to put on. I said this a year ago. I said this in January. I said it in the strongest terms at the first town hall meeting that Bruce Engel organized before I announced that I was running for mayor. I wanted to run for mayor when I was in the primary. The legislative body needs to take control. They are the ones that set the tone. Our council president, Mr. Jeff Martin, is the Speaker of the House and Senate president all wrapped into one. They control the money. They can stop passing resolutions. He determines what goes on the agenda. Stop catering to them.
That's true.
That council is a little bit better than the rubber stamp that was there for 4 years when it was Pone and Kenny running the show. And by the way, we're almost out of time. What do we got? About 3 minutes. I want to touch on something.
4 minutes.
I want to touch on something that just came back to my mind. Why is Dave Kenny the business administrator? Let's explore that a little bit. He really wasn't qualified to be a business administrator, but they made him the business administrator, in my humble opinion, because he was part of the problem, and they needed to cover up the problem when John Rickey retired. So they shuffled Dave Kenny into there. Dave Kenny was a councilman and not a very good one to begin with. And now he's business administrator, and they've resisted a top-to-bottom audit. I've asked them, I've advocated, I wanted a top-to-bottom audit for the last 2 years. We need a top-to-bottom audit. Why did they get rid of John Barrett? Because he wasn't going along with what they wanted. And they
Correct.
don't, whatever else is in there, the thing that scares me, the stuff that we've gotten from Oprah is scary and damaging enough to the township. What else is there that we don't see? Because we don't know what we don't know. We need a top to bottom audit. And I don't know what, I know there's an investigation going on, but I'm afeared of what they're shredding and what records don't exist.
Now, if anybody out there in Radio Land has any information that they want to send to us anonymously, your address is pretty out there. You can just mail it to us. You don't have to give a name, address. If you do, we're not going to release it. We just need the information to be able to go after these people that are just doing as they please. They're not being held accountable by the higher authorities, so we have to do it.
Well, I'm going to go on record and say that I have friends there in the FBI, CIA, DOD, and all that places from my previous work with the New Jersey State Police for 25 years. And a lot of them, my friends, Al Delafav, you know him, a lot of my friends were district attorneys in this state. And I notified them on all this stuff. So I'm sure they're doing background checks on a lot of this stuff like they did with the previous administration. So if they're, found with anything, they're gonna know. I want to keep them on their toes is what I'm saying. I want to make sure that they know that we're here and we're not backing down. Dave and I and you or whoever else wants to join us is not backing down. Make our own little community meetings right here live at the studio. Broadcast them to everybody. So everybody in the township knows how we feel about the politicians that are running this town right now. And I think that's going to give us a lot more respect and credibility with other people because we're doing it not only for ourselves, but for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gaining anything. I mean,
Right.
What
am I gaining, right? What am I gaining?
I mean, we're the ones that are being put out there and smeared for just releasing the facts. I mean, they don't want the facts out there because, then they're going to get charged or people are going to see what's going on. And people have lives, so they're just busy doing their thing. But if they have anything that they could share with us and just do it anonymously, that's fine. We don't need who it's from.
Right, exactly. And I think that's what you're going to see in the next few months going forward. A lot of the stuff that you said, a lot of the stuff that Steve said.
I think we're in for some very interesting times.
Oh yeah, we're going to make it rough for them. I'm going to go on record and say I'm going to make it real rough for them, because if they're going to make it rough for us, we're going to make it rough for them. They can't take on everybody, you know that, and it doesn't matter their backgrounds, who they know, what they do. We're not backing down from this. That's the way I see it. So, Dave, anything?
Yeah, just hit them with facts.
That's it. I'm looking forward to doing something in the evening. Let's try and pump this up and see if we get some calls.
Let's do it, guys. Steve, go out and work this if you can for us, buddy. And
we'll do.
And you could even come in and sit with us too.
Sure.
The more the merrier. We don't care, right, Dave?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Come on in, Steve.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Steve, for
Thank
the call.
you, everybody.
Thanks, Dave Henderson, and of course, Hamilton Radio. Thank you. We'll see you all again, probably on Thursday at 6:30. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Okay, Ruben, you can shut us off.